Good afternoon.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
All right. So today what we're doing is basically what's called a counseling session. And I always like to start out with just some questions, about yourself, so I can get to know you a little bit better. But I always like to ask in the beginning, are you familiar with counseling, or what's your knowledge of a counseling session?
I'm actually very familiar with it. I have had, therapy, which is kind of, in the same sense as counseling. So I kind of just see counseling as someone, with their own degree, guiding you or giving you advice or trying to assist in certain situations.
Okay. Sounds pretty good. Like you have a good knowledge of a counseling session where there's usually a person who has some knowledge or information based on maybe some events that you might bring, and we kind of talk about those, and
Right.
And it's really a process so you can kind of see some things that or reflect on some things that you've maybe said or done in the past, and at some point try to have some resolve, or to be able to make some changes and things if you see that fit. Okay. All right. Well, first I'll start with just tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're in school, so tell me about your grade, what grade you're in, who you live with, and things that you're interested in. We'll start with that.
Okay. Well, my name is Naja. I live with my mom and my two brothers, and I am in school. I will be going to college to study law.
Nice.
So I was on to be a detective right now. I'm nosy.
Yeah. Okay.
And my hobbies, I like to sing. I like to hang out with my friends. I'm very athletic. I like to play sports. Give me one and I'll try it.
Okay.
But other than that, I'm just a pretty all-around person.
Cool. That's excellent. So, so you're a senior. This is your last year.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm counting down days. I have 29 more left.
Oh, and that is not long at all.
Not included spring break, but I have 29 left.
Yes.
So I'm very excited. I am really, 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 really anticipating graduation. I'm from New York, so they have like kindergarten. They also have a 5th grade.
Yes.
And an 8th grade graduation.
Yes.
And so I was down here and I missed it. So this is my first official graduation. So it's like really, really, really important to me. So I'm like aiming high. I'm ready to go.
Exactly. And you want to study law.
I do.
Do you want to become a lawyer or work in that field?
I want to do, well, I guess it would be criminal justice. I shouldn't say law because that's typically what everyone goes to, but I want to be a detective. Okay. I like the whole idea of like helping other people out and, like I said, being nosy, figuring out where the pieces don't add up. And I love Law and Order. I love SVU. So that whole Olivia Benson thing, I'm like gung-ho for. Okay.
Wow.
So I want to be like detective here,
Okay. So you're good at figuring out information.
Right.
Getting information from others, piecing things together, and kind of presenting it in a way to where it all makes sense.
Yeah. And my nana's right here, so she's watching those like Columbo. And so when I watch him, I'm like, oh my God, okay, got to get he's on it. So medical diagnosis or something like that. Yeah. All that stuff I'm into.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask, where do you think, outside of watching those shows with your Nana and liking Law and Order, I'll just ask, where do you think that might come from? Just if you reflect or think back over your life, where do you think that might come from?
I think, truthfully, and I know you just said it, but a lot of it actually does stem from just watching, with her and just being, in that just one. My mom was a cop. Okay. She's a cop. So it kind of just was like, not following the family tree, but I was always like, oh, okay, my mom's, she's helping this person. She's a security guard there. My grandmother's a correctional officer. So I was just always liked it. As far as the whole detective thing comes from, I don't mind doing any field. Like, I wouldn't mind doing sex crimes. I wouldn't mind just doing regular homicide. Like, any type of field I would, love to be in. So I truthfully, it kind of did stem from her. Yeah. Okay. And just watching them, like,
be at work in the field. And, live that life. And they would come home. Would they talk about some of the cases
Funny
or things?
stories.
Yes. Yes.
So, like, you know, my mom, she told me about how they made liquor out of hand sanitizer.
Because of the alcohol
Yeah.
content.
So I was like, well, I mean, you know, stuff like that. I was just like, ooh,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah.
So I think you know, like I said, I would have to say they are the reasons why I'm so like interested into it. And then also watching the TV shows and just like, I can do that.
Yeah. I get a sense that you love your family
Mm-hmm.
and like you're very close with them. And that's just based on you know, their career fields, you know, what you're kind of going into. But I can still, you know, what kind of feeling would you say that you have for your mom and your nana and your brothers?
I'm very passionate about them. My mom and my grandmother, I didn't have my dad in my life.
Okay.
So my mom and my grandmother have always been their roles and his at the same time.
Right.
So I was always just under my mom. Like, I'm not the daddy's girl, I'm the mom's daughter, you know. I stay with my grandmother. Every time I need something, I give her a call. Sorry, my button open.
That's okay.
So I think that's where it comes from, just being so close to them, because they were my only support. I knew that I didn't have him, so I knew I could go to mom. And if mom was just short on something, I could go to Nana and she would have it. So I think that's where the whole bondage comes from, because I know not only is she my Nana, but she's my dad too. Not only is she my mom, she's my dad too.
Right. So you never saw it as a lack of anything.
Right.
It's just I still have regardless.
Exactly. And some people, you know, they don't have their dad and they like look back on it and they're like, oh, you know, they complain about it. And I'm the total opposite. Like, I know he's not there.
Right.
And so I'm like, I don't dwell on it, because I feel as though my mom and my grandmother have always been there. So had I like complained about it or talk bad about it, and maybe like a slap in the face to them, like,
I get
you know, how does she kind of feel like that when we've been here all her life? So
right. You would never want to say anything to disappoint.
Right. Especially when it doesn't need to be said. Like, I can see if she was my mom, she's my grandmother, and I just know. But they've been both to me. So I would never, you know, oh no, you're just mom. you know, I wouldn't say that.
Where are you in the line as far as age? Are you the oldest?
I am the oldest on my mom's side, but I'm the youngest on my dad's side.
Okay.
My dad, I have an older brother as well. So on my dad's side, it's my older brother Tony and I. And then on my mom's side, I'm the oldest and I have two little brothers. So I'm kind of teeter-totter in the middle.
The middle?
Right.
What's the age difference between you and your little brother?
Nathan is the youngest. He's 6 and I'm 17. So we're 11 years. And then Amik is 12 and I'm 17. Well, I'll be 18. So we're about 5 years.
Okay.
And then Tony he'll be 23 in August. So I think we're 5 years as well.
Okay. So growing up, so you were the only one at home until about 5 or 6, huh?
Right.
So
it was always just me.
Yeah.
I was always the kid in cookies, you know, walking in the store, singing and people laughing. But I was, you know, I was the only kid. And then even for the longest time, I was the only granddaughter too.
Okay.
It wasn't until, how old is Corey? Corey's 6 now. So it wasn't until my uncle had his own kid that I then had to share that territory with
being a granddaughter.
Right. Because up until then, I was the only one. So it was like, Nana, and I got it, Nana. So now I got to prioritize. Like, I got Corey, I got Nathan, I got Amik, now I got to wait a little. So,
yes. But you know, you getting ready to move on with your life.
Right.
And go to college. And
I'm so ready for it, too.
Have that? Okay.
I am. The only thing I'm not ready for is when I leave college and then I gotta do this and I gotta pay that and I gotta get this. No, that is probably the only thing I'm fearful of. Like, I'm so afraid. I'll call my mom every day. Mom, how do I write a check?
Exactly.
That's the stuff they need to teach us in school, because I'm the type of person, I would literally call you if I need help. Mom, I need you to write this check for me. I need you to go cash a check. I don't know how to do this.
Well, it's good that you have those resources and that support.
Right.
That you know you can have someone to call, especially if you felt like you were in a bind or had a question or needed something to talk about.
Right.
Okay.
100%.
Wonderful. So I also want to ask too, you know, I, of course, asked you about doing the counseling session and I'm, you know, curious to know what made you decide or say, okay, I'll do it. I can do this.
Cause really, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. It was just, you know, you had something to do, and so I was like, sure. I mean, I can talk or what, you know, you feel like asking me something, I'll just answer it honestly. Yeah. So, you know, I wouldn't have downplayed it like, no. I've done, like I said, I did counseling before. I was not a fan of it because of the circumstances.
Understood.
So I was never like, oh, let's do it. But I was like, hey, it's nothing.
Right.
I mean, just ask a couple questions and just be honest.
Right.
That's it.
When you had counseling before, were there times that you were honest or not honest in it because of whatever the situation was at the time?
Truthfully, I didn't really like the counseling.
Okay.
I didn't like the idea. I felt as though they were talking to me as if I'm a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was oh, so what about this? And though to them, yeah, I am a kid, but I just felt out of place.
Right.
So when they would ask me questions, I actually would just sit there quietly. Like, I wouldn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
I was very sheltered. I didn't feel like talking. Some days I would want to skip the session.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to go. And then the first lady I had wound up not being a person I was supposed to have, so I had someone, like I had three. And so I was like, I'm so tired of talking about the same thing over
Right.
and over again.
Right.
And to three other people, and it's just annoying.
Yeah.
So after a while, I was just like, listen, I don't feel as though I need it, because they tried to say I have PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I don't really think I need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over it. And so I was like, I'm just not going to come, because
Right.
I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
So.
Was it through school or was it through home or?
Home.
Okay. So so basically they thought that you needed a referral for
Right.
for services.
Right.
Okay. How many times did you have to meet with them really that you remember?
It was a while ago, but I want to say once every 2 weeks.
Okay. And
For
how?
maybe 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
So I was just, I was over it. I really was. I was just.
So you did it, but you weren't really kind of
Right.
You weren't feeling
No.
going through the
It
sessions.
took her a long time. The second lady I had, it took her a while for her to we had to do like little building games for her to get me to open up, because I was like, I'm just over it. And the third lady, I had nothing to say to her.
Yeah.
Just being honest, I had nothing to say. I mean,
By that
we
time,
would literally just sit at each other just like this, and she would ask questions, and I would just.
At that time, were you in school at that time? What grade were you in when you had to do those sessions?
I was not in high school. I want to say maybe 7th, 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 7th, 8th grade.
Which is also still a transition time. We know what middle school is like.
Right.
You know how we talk about as counselors. That's the period of time where everything's kind of happening.
Right.
You're on your way. Being a young adult. You're going into high school. Your family, things are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies are changing. Our minds are changing.
Right.
So that was probably just a time anyway where it really wasn't good to talk about anything.
No, and
Yeah.
like I said, under the circumstances, I didn't feel like I had to keep reiterating what happened
talked about it,
and
yeah.
keep talking about it. Like, it was just annoying to keep visiting the same things like over
Mm-hmm.
and over again. 5 other people, 6 people. I had to look at this, I had to look at that. It just felt like you're pulling my strings, and I'm just resisting. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be there. So, which is why eventually I just stopped going.
And then what was the result of that? What happened after you stopped going?
I mean, I would still say that I was the same person. I mean, I know some people, it's like, when they go to rehab and then they leave and they kind of have a, setback. But
Right.
But I think I'm still the same person. I
Okay.
actually think maybe I've changed more.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to, not think about it so much, and just, if something happens, come out. I'm able to talk about it more. That was another thing I learned. While I was there, it was very hard for me to open up about what happened.
Right.
And so after, it was kind of like I'm able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though sometimes I'll talk about it and I'll get emotional,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not emotional like I need to go back. It's
Right.
just like I'm just releasing a little anger that got built up
Right.
while talking about it. So,
Exactly.
But I think I was able to talk about it more after the fact.
So sometimes talking about it would bring up some of those same feelings. Not necessarily that you're there and it's all happening again, but just the feelings of, okay, I'm letting a little bit more of it go.
Right.
Right.
And that's
Understood.
really what it was. And so, like I said, I don't even know, do I still have PTSD or not? I don't
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But, I mean, asking me, I would say no, I'm fine.
Right.
I'm over it.
Well, I will tell you, part of this session too is also about confidentiality,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that it just definitely, sincerely, what we talk about
Yeah.
stays in here, and not even to any of the other counselors. So,
Yeah, I got you.
Of course, I would still make sure that you know that confidentiality stays between the both
Yeah,
of us,
I got you.
and I only want you to be comfortable enough to share what you want to share.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I would like to ask, in a general sense, where your PTSD stems from, just to kind of get an overall sense of of maybe the beginnings or the origins of it. And I know you said, well, you know, it might have changed me a little bit for the person I am now.
Right.
And then we kind of talk about maybe what some of those changes were that you saw. So a lot of it is really me kind of asking you, what's the origins of your PTSD? If you didn't feel like you had it, if you want to call it another name, we can do that too.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
And then how do you think it might have impacted you or changed you up until now?
Well, the source of the PTSD was because I was sexually assaulted.
Okay.
So prior to that, I would say I was just a regular 11-year-old kid. I was just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think after a situation and everything came out, I wouldn't say, it was just hard because most people, and this is not even me, but most people think, oh, when someone gets raped, it's by someone they don't know.
Right.
And in my case, it was someone I didn't know. Someone lived in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like, you know, someone who you wanted me to call you stepdad has like taken advantage of me.
Right.
And so now, you know, who I am now is just, that's why when I'm in relationships, it's really hard for me to trust people.
Exactly.
And so, like, cause even stem back from my dad, like not having him there and then feeling like someone who's supposed to be my stepdad take advantage of me.
Right.
And so now it's hard for me to express that in other people, you know.
Understood.
And so I'll do things like, you know, if I have a boyfriend and he just makes me mad, it'll just like, stop doing stupid stuff. Like, I just want to say something because you're just driving me crazy. Yeah. So a lot of what they were basically trying to say is they felt like I had everything bottled up. I was angry. I was just a lack of communication. And so I wouldn't say, like I said, I would say now I'm a totally different person. I'm able to talk about it now without getting so frustrated or shutting down or not wanting to speak at all. And so I think the person that I am now, it affected me to the point where my eyes have been opened to realize that it can be anyone at any age from any person. Right. And it's not just, you know, a random person you meet, which is, like I said, a lot of people's misconception. Right. And so that would just be, you know, that's where I learned from it.
What about your friendships? Trust too with them as well?
Right.
Just even being friends?
That's why when you guys hear me around the office say I don't have friends, that's why. Because it's really hard for me to open up to people and then trust them, or not even open up, but trust you, and then you break it back down. So now I don't trust you at all. I don't want to trust you. Right. So my circle stays in my little 5 people I talk to, and that's why, like I said, it's really hard for me in relationships because that as soon as I feel like you're doing something and if you're breaking that trust me and you now have, now I'm kind of easing away from you and it's making me like question, what are you doing? Right. And stuff like that.
Yeah, what their motives are.
So trust is a big, my trust for a lot of people because of that situation has been broken. And I think that is probably the only thing that has stuck with me until now. Trust. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think I have to maybe accept people more first, and then, you know, then I can open myself up to them, but I wouldn't just jump into, you know, oh, you're my best friend, and I just met you 3 days ago. Yeah,
so almost like being more cautious.
Right,
of
like
people
playing the field first.
Yes.
And then, you know, then I'll reciprocate back.
Right. Your 5 friends now, how are they able to maintain your friendship and trust? When you think about them,
I just love them. Like my best friend or my best friends. I have 2 of them. I have a guy and a girl. My girlfriend, my girl best friend. Right. She's just, you know, she's just like me, really. She does the same qualities. We're from the same place. We act just alike. Yeah. And so we're just really, really close. And same as with my guy best friend, you know, me and him have the same zodiac sign. Yeah. And so we're just always hanging out. And I think, like I said, they have not crossed that line yet. Okay. And so I feel like if it was to happen, I'm not even going to say them. I'll use, you know, Lauren, for example. Yes. There's times where she has really ticked me off, and I had to stop speaking to her because I'm like, calm down. You're getting angry for no reason. But if you want to be angry, now I'm angry too. So now we don't have to talk. Understood. So it's only when the line is crossed that I feel like those 5 people, you know, I got to ease away from. But other than that, I have never had a falling out with either of my best friends. I've had maybe 1 or 2 with Lauren, but that's good friends, you know, fall out and then they get back together.
Exactly.
I had a falling out with Nautica recently, and so I guess now she's trying to patch things over.
Okay.
And so even with her, I felt like the line was crossed simply because you were mad at me over a guy.
Right.
A guy who I don't want, you don't want, and don't want us.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, you know, but I learned that it's easy to forgive and not mean what you say than to really forgive someone because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I always will remember, I'm never going to forget, but I will be able to put aside like, hey, that was stupid. It was over a dumb dude. Whatever. You've been my friend since then. Cool.
Let's keep it cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on how many times you decide you want to teeter off that line.
Right.
Then now we have a problem because now I don't want to talk. But
well, I can definitely see a lot of insight. Like you can definitely see where, you know, the people that have those qualities that you love about them, which makes them special to you, you trust them. I can see your insight, and I can see how you have come a long way to be able to trust and be with people and talk to them. Even me, you just met me this year.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah, but I can tell, you know, everybody, and I think that's normal. I think it's normal for you to be able to kind of just feel things out, feel people out for who they are.
Right.
You know, as long as they don't invade your personal space too much and do too much, I definitely think it's normal.
Right.
And you know, one of those things where we all do that. You know.
Right. Yeah. And I had this conversation with me and my best friend. Have this conversation all the time. And so, like I said, she's kind of the same way with me. Like she only has like maybe 4 or 5 people she talks to, just simply because she's very, I wouldn't say antisocial, but she's picky on who she talks to. Like if someone's talking to me, like she doesn't like the whole idea of me and Annika talking again because now she feels like you crossed her and it's gonna happen again. Yeah. So now she's kind of like, I'm gonna look at her funny. You know what I mean? So I have to tell her sometimes, oh, it's all right. I gotta be more acceptive. Right. And you know, sometimes just gotta brush things off and just forget about it.
Absolutely. And sometimes people are not in the same place as one another. I mean, I think you know that they're not. You know, one person might forgive and, you know, be able to move on, but sometimes people cannot move out of that space.
Right.
So, and I think you get that. So you're almost, do you find yourself being a mediator sometimes? Like
I do. I really
people?
do. I've had people tell me all the time, you should be a counselor. You really know how to work situations out. I've had that been told to me maybe 5 or 6 times now. Yeah. That you're such a good listener. You just know what to say, you know, and you're just a great middleman. Like I do feel like sometimes I'm in that element, and
what's
I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I feel as though I don't mind being a mediator. Okay. But what my opinion is, if you're asking me, don't then get mad. Right. You're asking me, Nigel. You know, what do you? I'm not really messing with her, and I'll come and listen. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop doing that. You guys are both being petty. It's kind of stupid. But don't turn around and try to bite my head off because you asked me for my opinion and I'm being honest and I'm giving it to you. Right. So I don't have a problem being a middleman. Just don't try to bark at me because you asked me for my opinion and it just happens to be the truth or kind of cold or however you want to say it. But I don't have a problem with it. I really don't.
Okay. So you definitely know how to speak your mind and don't worry about what other people are going to say.
No. Yeah. That's definitely me.
That's what I heard.
That's definitely me. Yeah. It really is.
Okay. So I know you say you're going into law, but do you think that might be something? I mean, you know, college is
open.
Yes. You get there and you might be like, I mean, I want to do it, but then...
To be honest, that was actually my first field of idea. Okay. When I was when I was a freshman, I always thought about it. Maybe I should be a therapist. Maybe I should be a counselor. You know, I don't, you know, and so I was like, oh, maybe I'll think about it. But then I always just was like, something about being a detective that always it's intriguing. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I was like, and even if I do like I major in one and minor in the other, because that's what I was originally going to do. I was going to major in criminal justice and minor in psychology. Yes. Or psychology.
Yep, that's right.
And so that's what I was going to do. And then when I changed, something changed my mind, and I was like, well, maybe I'll major in criminal justice and then I'll minor in business. Okay. So I'm kind of in those 3 fields, but as of right now, for sure, I would do criminal justice because that's really what I want to do. Okay. And I wouldn't mind doing either or. Or maybe putting one first and put that one down as a minor. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it.
When I went to college, my major wasn't, well, first I went into pharmacy, but then I realized I didn't want to do that. And so my major became psychology, and my minor was in criminal justice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you I loved that, I loved criminal justice. You only have to get 15 credits when I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the history of how things got started. You know, they would talk about the mafia and the mob and all those things, how they stem out of New York and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So the history of that. So you're probably gonna learn about that. I love that, and I love detective work too.
Yes, that. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's been my forte.
Yeah.
I love that whole idea of, even when I'm with my friends and I know someone lying about something, I'll catch you quick. I'll screenshot something and be like, but didn't you just say this on March 13th,
right.
2017?
Right.
I'll catch you. Like, what you mean? Yeah, I quote that.
Because they don't remember, do they?
Nope.
Yeah.
Just like Medea said, you go ask them 10 questions, go all the way to 100, come back number 10, your answer's going to be different.
It's different.
And
that's with everybody.
Truthfully, yep.
So sometimes that just lets us know we can't always listen to what people say because they don't even know themselves.
They don't even know. They really don't.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll say one thing, totally mean the opposite, and then they'll go back and, I didn't even know I said that. Yeah.
Okay.
I bet you didn't.
Well, I'd like to ask too, just kind of in wrapping up a little bit, I want you to think about this maybe for the next time that we talk. What would be, I'm going to give you just 2 things that you would want to work on or just even talk about to even explore. So that might be a little something that we'll do next time. If there's anything at all that you feel like, okay, well, maybe I can talk about this, or if I want to work on this, or maybe I'm, don't know too much about this or that, and we can explore that.
Right.
So that would be our next, probably our next step.
Yeah.
All right. So from there, other than that, usually I'd like to set a goal, and maybe we'll meet within the next week or 2. And then that way we can meet and talk, and maybe talk about some things that you feel like you, have an interest in.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
Okay,
right?
that works.
Okay. Any questions at all?
No.
No? Okay. All right. So this was good. The counseling session was good. And so we set a date for probably within the next week, and then we'll meet from there.
Okay, that works.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
I'm actually glad.